Well, everything started, this session is regarding the query store and the usage of SQL Copilot to identify performance issues, right? So my name is Manuel Jurado. My colleague Juan Moreno today is not available today, but Juan is part of this presentation. He's a support escalation engineer working in Microsoft working in SQL Server Core and subject matter expert in high availability. My name is, as I mentioned, José Manuel Jurado. I'm escalation engineer for more than 14 years working in Microsoft. All my, let's say, work was related about databases because it's one of the pleasure. Also, I was part of developer, so I try to combine developer, the one thing that I liked, developing code plus the databases. Beside this, I am speaker in multiple sessions and working as a DBA developer, IT manager in multiple companies. So for today, we developed a small application that we would like to share with you later on at the end of the session regarding the 15 scenarios that we use to find common in support. No? As you could see, I'm a support engineer working with customers. I know what is the bad thing, the good things of the product, etc. So the idea of these sessions, sometimes we use to choose any other that we could share what was the issue and what was the resolution. So for the reason, multiple conversations that we have with customers, we have this set of comment. No, there is something wrong in the code. The number of execution per second is very low. I don't have command timeout. His database is not working. So also the strain case of multiple execution plans, or my process is taking too much time. For this presentation, we choose the third one. And I would like to give the brief story, what happened in this scenario. And I would like to ask you collaborations in order to work together. How could be the situation or could be the problem? No. So until now, I would like to pause here. I don't know if you have any question before starting.
No questions.
Okay, perfect. If not, let's go. Sorry, let's go for the first slide. So suppose that we have a company right now. Is one day before the deployment, and the manager has a discussion with the developer team about if everything is fine. So the manager asks one question to the developer: what is happening? What is the implementation? How is going on? If the deployment is fine. So this is a Python code. As you could see, it's very common to use Python in multiple process, right? Basically, this code is running, is generating one random code, random number, and running multiple times the stored procedural that is called gift nodes. Okay, basically it's running in a loop. They have best practices that we have as developer, retry items, retry logic, about the connectivity, retry in terms of executions, because it's one of the most important things when we are developing code in Azure. Now, the retry logic and connectivity, most probably, use connection pooling, plus use the retry logic in terms of execution. So how you manage the transactions in this part. So as you can see, the code it's running very well. It's running random codes. The execution is just only 0.4 seconds. Everything is fine, no issues. And I would like to mention that the table basically is one table. It's an example that we have 3 columns, 1 primary cluster, and I'm going to clean the query store just only for purpose. So everything is fine, no issues, and basically the table that we have, as we mentioned, it's pretty much very simple. So as you can see here, we have and we don't have any statistics, just only the primary key. We have an index and the columns is here, right? So everything is perfect. This day, everything is happy. Everyone is happy. And we are going to start the situation. So let me to add a couple of rows here, and I'm going to move back to the slides, and we are going to start with the day 1 after deployment. So in this conversation, the DBA has a conversation with developers also, because I think that is very important to join the force together about the developers, DBAs, about it. And I'm going to cover a little bit what is the actions that at least we could use in order to monitor the performance using SQL Copilot, Query Data Store, and also the portal. Okay, of course that we have other options for time constrictions and also for the scope of this session. We are going to put focus about these 3 environments. So basically, the idea, one thing that we used to recommend is enable, for example, most probably you are aware about Query Data Store. In this part, second is here. The properties of the Query Data Store, we have a very useful information. I'm not going to cover all of them, but I used to enable, for example, the size, okay, to capture the data. It's very important to put focus in the Query Store capture mode, because in this case I put all, because I would like to capture all the queries that I need. Okay, of course that you could use auto or custom depending of you of your choice, how much data do you want to collect. And also I modified 2 topics, 2 parameters in this case is about the data flows interval and statistics collection interval 1 minute. Normally it's not needed to use this one. You could list by default, but when I do in the demo, I need very quickly refresh the data that I saw in the execution. But this is just only for you. It's just only for example that we have. Other thing that for me it's really amazing is about the query weighted statistics. If you don't have on and off, because in SQL Server or in Azure, etc., is for me all other things that really amazing to enable in this part. No, so as a DBA, is one thing that important to have enabled about it. If I move to the portal, one thing that when I review how is working the application, of course that we have different activities, extended events, SQL auditing, many other activities that we could use, performance recommendation, automatic tuning, etc. But the idea is to review how it's working my database. No, through the portal, I could see right now, for example, what is the use of CPU. As you can see, it's 0, so the application is working well. No issues about the database. Workers percentage is very low. As this database, most probably, I don't know if you are aware, but this database is under serverless. Serverless, you have the chance, if I go back a little bit, in serverless, you have the possibility to choose how many vCores that you want to use max vCore. So at the end, the database could increase automatically for 0.5 vCores until 4. So in this situation, in this database, when I saw that we are using serverless, my idea is also in my report is to create a new report and also to see, for example, the CPU usage and also another metric that is called CPU limit. So in this part, I could see this is the maximum CPU that my database could reach, and this is the maximum, the actual CPU that we are using, right? So it seems that everything is fine. And I would like to go to the SQL Copilot, right? SQL Copilot, I'm going to share with you all the prompts that I used to recommend to the customers, okay? That, for example, one of the best typical thing that is, for example, to use what are the most common weight types in my database. If I run this query, it's going to take a little bit time, okay? Meanwhile, it's taking this time. I would like to mention that the new version of the SQL Server Management Studio that's in preview right now. You have one option, most probably in the SQL Server in the query option. You have also the Copilot that you could ask the same question that I'm doing here. Okay, so it's very useful because you could use both right now. Okay, you could use Copilot in this part, or in the preview, you could use the syntax. I don't have installed the version because basically it was the session. We are preparing a new session about how to use it specifically with SQL Server Management Studio. But you could see here. So right now, I don't see too much usage in terms of average, in terms of the different weight steps. So at least as DVA that we are, so we could determine what is the situation. Other prompt that for me before the deployment, or when we initiate the deployments of applications, etc., new projects, is to use that which queries are exhibiting command performance anti-patterns. I don't know, much probably you are aware about what is the anti-patterns, but basically it's a very common situation that we have, that when the application is running a query on a stored procedural and the application send the data type of the different parameters in a correct state, or not the same state, the same data type that we have in the database, in the table, let's say. So suppose that you are using envarchar in your stored procedural, but in the table is varchar. So when SQL receives this query, needs to convert the value to varchar, to envarchar to the amount of the rows that you have, or all the rows that you have for this column. So it's taking too much CPU. And in this situation, it's very important to try to determine that you have this scenario, because you could have a huge impact. So for example, in Java, in other applications that by default normally is envarchar, it's very important to determine this scenario. I used to use these queries, okay, in order to determine, for example, right now they say that no queries were flagged, but it's very important, okay, because you are going to reduce a lot of CPU, a lot of also the payment that you pay for the service. It's very important. I have several examples that I could share if we have time at the end of the session, but it's the first thing. So right now we have the scenario as DVA we complete, and let's try to what happened for this customer one day after, for example, 1 second, yeah, after 20 days after deployment. Okay, so give me just only one moment. I'm going to add a number of rows here. 1 second. So we have a number of rows, and our application, as you can see, is taking more time. So it's under, let's say, normally this application, they have a server level agreement with the customer that that any process took more than 1 second. Okay, we have this time, but right now the user detect that is taking more time, and we started the troubleshooting. So we could initiate the troubleshooting in multiple areas, no? Using extend events, other tools, but let's try to start with the SQL Copilot, okay? Just only to play with this, what is happening. So one prompt that I used to recommend is this: which query ID text are consuming the most CPU in the database in the last hour, in the last 30 minutes, etc. So if I click, it's going to take a little bit more time. You know, sometimes we have errors, etc. Because for the users is in preview. But one of the most important things is right now, Copilot is connecting to the data, the internal telemetry data, to analyze what is happening in the database, right? As you can see here, we have several queries, no? The query ID 37, 39. Sorry. We have the query number 1 with 7,000 executions. It's taking also CPU, etc. No? It seems that this query, the query number 1, for the volume of the execution that is taking too much, is impacting the CPU. I would like to understand, I would like to know what is happening. So I could use Copilot in order to ask if he could give me the text of the query with query ID 1. Okay. Let's try. It's not the expected one. He mentioned that you could use the query. For example, let's try. I think that if we copy and paste this query, 1 second, and we put here. If I copy and paste the suggestion, we have the query. This is the query that is taking, let's say, we are executing too much time, is using too much CPU overall. So at least identify the query. Sometimes I promise that if I repeat the question again, we used to have, depending of how, because we have several delays about how we update the internal telemetry data, how it's the data that we flush in the query data store. But at the end, after several minutes, I'm sure that we are going to have, yes, we are going to have the query. So we identify the query, we know what is the query. So right now, the next step is to start working with the troubleshooting aspect, no? So in this case, basically my idea is, you know, most probably all the options that we have in query store. We have regress queries, overall queries, store resources. We have many. Also, as I mentioned, one thing that I like it is the weighted statistics, because we have a lot of information about the different weighted stats in my database. But my goal is to go, as I know the query, my idea is to search here, or to put the query number here. Also, if you don't use SQL Copilot, you could use you could find also the query using the top resources, etc. Okay, this is one example. We could use other ways, but the idea is to combine SQL Copilot at query data store. So if I search for the query and I change a little bit what happened in the last hour in terms of average the executions, we could see one thing that for me it's important. No, the execution. How was the execution, and how was the executions and time that it took every executions. Here, I started when I saw 2 execution plans. I was thinking, what happened? So I would like to ask to you, in your experience, what do you think that happened to have 2 execution plans? It's funny you don't know. It's just only I would like to ask if you could say something, or what is your thoughts or ideas that could be, what could be the reason that this query that is running the application has 2 execution plans. If we don't know, it's fine. So the situation is the following. As you could see, we started with one query. As you can see here, that is using the query, as we mentioned, is very simple. It's select count from nodes where a number ordered by. So at the end, as you can see, this is the execution plan of the query. It's a very basic combination, but unexpectedly, we have a new execution plan here. Okay, if I click in the execution plan, I observe 2 things. They started say, hey, most probably you need missing indexes or create an index. Okay, and if I click in the properties, I saw that in this parameter, optimized stats usage, we could see that it seems that today in UTC, it seemed that the statistics was outdated, creating these statistics. So when SQL Server has enabled the update automatic statistics, as you remember previously, this table we don't have any statistics about this query. If I refresh the statistics, we have a new ones. And these statistics that, as you could see, is automaticized for SQL Server. You could see that the details about they are using ID because it's part of the filter, and also all the another statistics that we have that was created automatically by SQL Server is the column name with details. And one important thing that for the reason when we have a performance problem, SQL Server is not going to use to calculate all the statistics using all the rows in your table. It's using a sample. So sometimes sample is good, sometimes it's not, because depending on the distribution of the data, the cardinality of the data. So for the reason, when you have performance issues, normally the recommendation is to start also with the statistics, okay, to update with full scan. Okay, of course, that the volume of data is other topic that I'm not going to be into this one, but the most important thing is right now I understood that thanks to SQL Copilot, I know the query. I know that we have 2 statistics, and well, SQL decide to use these statistics. It's fine. The impact of the missing indexes, it's fine. I think that we could live with this one, okay, and we could continue working because in terms of 7-level agreement that we have, is not impacting too much, and it's not necessary to do any actions. I would like to pause here. I don't know if you have. I'm not able to see right now the team channel, but I don't know if you have any question or any clarification
there
about
is no question. There were some answers to your questions in the chat. Okay, so you don't see the chat. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So right now we know, as we mentioned, after the day of deployment, but everything was fine until we have a big issue. Let me add in. Let me go and add a second. Of course, sorry, I forgot to one thing that is very important for the DVAs that likes to use DMVs or you have implemented in your daily work script, etc. You know that we could use multiple DMVs. Okay, you could use resource stats to determine what is the CPU usage in your database. You could determine multiple aspects in query data store to review also the executions, errors, timeout, etc. Also, we could determine with this query, for example, to obtain for how much is the queries are, how much is the duration. We could determine the query, say this query is taking too much time because, for example, as we mentioned, was executed 2061, this query, etc. So I'm going to add more rows here. Second is here. Yeah. Second. As Manuel is inserting the data, you could see that how is the impact right now in the application. Right now we are broken. We are breaking the SLA that we have with our customer. We have an agreement that of 1 second, right now it's 9 seconds of the executions. Of course, that we are adding data, okay? That we have some blockings internally. The code is preventing to have any errors about command timeout because we are using command retry logic about multiple aspect. Okay, for the reason we have the update number 1 of 3. So let's wait for when it's going to complete. It's going to take no more than 40 seconds. So in this case, the situation is this is that the situation is happening. Let me finish. No, but let's go. Okay, so as you can see, we have many problems right now in this part. So right now, when we receive the call, we ask to our customer. The first thing is to review the CPU. We could use also query store, as we mentioned at the beginning about it. Remember that the previous time that we have. And so let's try to go to the query data store and trying to determine what is happening, right? If I refresh the data, you could see one topic that we have a new execution plan. No? In this execution plan, of course, that right now, this execution plan, after, as we mentioned before, a new statistics was updated because we add more rows in the table. Right now, the impact of the index is 68. But before going in this particular aspect, I would like to ask to you if you know what is this tick that we have in the query store. It's not, I'm going to give you an explanation about it. So right now, as you can see, we have 3 different execution plans. We could have more, okay? Because remember that we have, depending on the version of the SQL Server, we have several thresholds that, depending on the modifications that we have, we are going to calculate the statistics. And the end is the calculation is taking time. You could have several issues in your executions. Also, the queries could take less or more time. You have a degradation in this part. So in this case, it's clear that we need to pay attention and try to at least following the best practices or the recommendations of SQL Server is try to create the misindexes. We are going to create this index, and most probably we are going to have an effect in the execution of the query, sorry, of the application. So it's taking time, as I mentioned. It's right now it's creating the index around 16 millions of rows, something like this. So it's going to take time. So let's wait for the completion. So let me try to find if we have any refresh. No, we are still facing the same plan ID. Okay. So right now it seems that we reduce a little bit the executions. Okay. So let's try to check if the index was created. Right now we create the index. If I review the execution plan, I expect to have, that is normal, the execution plan number 73. 73, as you could see, is a different execution plan, right? As you can see here, right now, if we compare this execution with the number 1 that we have previously, we have a different here. We are using cluster index, so we are reading all the rows of the table. And in 73, right now, SQL Server is using the index to obtain the data. Okay, so using all the rows that we have in this table, using the statistics, etc., and it's taking. If I still refreshing the data, one thing. Let me go, sorry, to the execution. We are still facing after the index. We thought that, hey, the issue is resolved. Let's moving on. Let's close the case. But we're still saying these seconds. So it's more than that the customer expected. So in this part, we don't know what happened, and we go back to the tracked queries, and the idea is to find what is happening. One thing that for me pay attention is why instead to use the query number 73, that I expect that they are going to use the index SIG, is still using the query the plan number 1. That the plan number 1 is using column store index. This is affecting too much if I need to review what is happening in terms of second is here. In terms of CPU, it's taking too much CPU and memory. So my thoughts were, hey, what is happening? And I noticed this tick. This ticks, I saw this button is here that is called force plan. So SQL Server, based on the performance, based on the several situations, and also about the auto tuning option that is behind the scenes in the engine, it calculates that in terms of performance, will be a good idea to maintain this. So he maintains the force plan even when I create the index. Okay, so it's forcing the creation of the using these executions without using the force, without using the right execution plan, let's say. Okay, so in this part, going back to, I'm going to explain later what is the solution, but even if we review what happened in terms of CPU, you could see that right now it's the CPU is, if we refresh the data here, is the refresh here. So right now is using around 2 B-cores of the force that we have. As you could see here, you could see how the SQL Server start using the CPU depending on the workload. Also, we could see right now we reach the CPU around 63%. So in this case, it's clear that it's affecting too much in the execution because it's clear the situation that we have in terms of time. And the idea was we could do two things, or enforce the plan. If I enforce the plan right now, I could back to the query. The query is taking right now, sorry, is taking less than 1 second. But again, the query is taking 5 seconds. As you can see, 5 seconds with the volume. In this situation, if I go back and I say what happened, again, SQL Server decides to use the force plan that we had before, because I have enabled in my database, as you could see here in the portal, if I go to the database right now and check the automatic tuning, I have on the force plan in my setting. So I could disable this force plan, but instead to do this, because I have other force plan in my database, the idea was I'm going to choose and to force this plan, the 73, because for me, I think that is the best option based on the workload. Okay, if I go back right now to the application, we could see the impact. Okay, right now it's taking, sometimes it's taking 1 second, sometimes it's taking less than 1 second, but at the end we identified the situation that it's happening. So from the beginning of the deployment, after the beginning of the deployment, the lesson learned here is the developers needs to run test, let's say, with the prevision of the workload, run test about, I don't know, for example, with amount of data that you forecast, let's say, or what do you think that the number of the rows that is going to have your table. Because if we test basically with 20,000 rows, we could have several 1 or 2 execution plan, nothing else. But at the end, when the system is in production and we have deletion, inserts, updates, etc., it's very important to at least to establish, let's say, a threshold or a prevision about what happened with the different numbers in your database. As you can see here, we resolved the problem. Okay, and we have several other aspects in this part. So well, we fixed this situation. The customer was very happy. So to be honest with you, this was a severity increase it because the situation was very urgent to resolve. What is the session goals? This is the lesson learned here. Okay, we specify in 2 slides to identify the common performance issues, use the diagnostics tools like Query Store, SQL Copilot, or SQL Server Management tool in Copilot, applied the best practices, the coding, because it's very important. And also for me, one thing that is very important in summary is that I would like to share with you is how the developers at DBA needs to work together. No, I think that I saw in my experience, when the developer team and the DBAs are working together, even when the server is critical and the code is very efficiency, the database, it's have maintenance plans, etc. It's reviewing every X time, etc. Even with 2 cores, it's possible to run one mission critical application. No. Other topics is resolve the problems in real time. I could share with you the code, etc., etc. So, sorry, I forgot. Sorry, it's my mistake. Yes, my mistake. Okay, I'm going to share with you. Sorry, I forgot to include one at least of prompts that we have about the scenario, about the different prompts that we found in working with SQL Copilot. We have a lot of prompts about how to play, for example, with Copilot. Let's say how to obtain, for example, I would like to share with you other. It's if do I have any missing indexes in my database? So instead to run the DMV, we could obtain what is the missing indexes that we have in my database. Let's say that okay, it's checking. Right now there is no missing indexes, of course, because we created the index previously. Or for example, how do remember that the query number 1 is how can I improve the execution plan? Sorry, the execution query ID number 1. No, it's also planning, because right now Microsoft is including a lot of is improving the model that we have in order to add or to work or to include more activities for us as developer, as a DBA, to try to reduce or try to improve the application. So that's it for my side. I don't know. Sorry. I don't know if you have any questions. I'm going to go to the chat. Basically, this is the experience that we have in support. I like it to share this this experience. So you have here my contact details, even with my colleague Juan. And I open for questions, or I hope that you could find useful in you day by day, because in this situation, the customer choose to increase the CPU from 4 to 40 CPUs, and they have the same problem. No, so for the reason I show you SQL Copilot, how to determine query at the store, how to resolve, review the force plan, and we were able to reduce even less in terms of CPU and also pay less in this part.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a really interesting use case. So I mean, you know, is that based on something you've gone through with a customer experience as well? Yeah.
Exactly. No, it's I like it, Justin. I have as I mentioned, the application that we have here. Sorry, the application that we have here include. If I stop the application, one of the things that I like it is it's try to reproduce the issue. One of my biggest problem is I like to reproduce the problems because I learn a lot, in this part. So for the reason, when we have this type of application, I don't know. So in the presentation that we have previously, I have 15 scenarios like this one that you could see, for example, a high CPU when you are using anti-patterns. That is worse when you're using multi-thread. That is causing a huge problem with the customers. For example, the command timeout retry, for me, is very important. One thing in my experience is to determine the differences between connections timeout and command timeout. Sometimes we could see it's very clear, but when we receive a case, the customers, no, we have a timeout. But yes, but what type of timeout do you have? It's connection or command? Because the troubleshooting, is totally different, right? And command timeout also is very important to explain that the command is established by the client, not by the database. So it's important to rephrase, hey, review the command timeout that you have in the properties on your application when you run queries. No. Well, other things that I want to take more time, but as you could see, it's the several contention deadlock examples, concurrency lock, network latency, how to measure the network latency because we have questions about the volume, etc. So I could chat with you this. For me, it's a pleasure because in the end, it's the way that we learn, and that's it.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's interesting to see. Just the live testing of it that you're able to do with that is really good. Okay, so well, thank you very much for coming along. I hope Juan is better soon. Send him our regards. Hopefully he's feeling better soon.
I hope because we changed a little bit. The session was more interactive because we play a role play. So he's the DBA and myself. Yeah. But no, thank you so much.
You did a fine job of covering both sides of it. So
exactly.
So well done there. Please provide us feedback. Thank you, Jose, for putting some time aside to talk to us today. That was really interesting. I hope you have a great day. And we will be back at 20 past, I think, with the next call. So until then, have a great day, Jose, and I'll hopefully see you again soon.
Okay, thank you so much for the invitation. I hope that you find it useful, and very happy to be here again with other topics. And thank you so much for this. For us, it's significant a lot of things. Thank you so much for this.